Hello everyone and welcome to another lunchtime learning session. My name is Kath and I'm the Education and Outreach Manager for Good Heart Animal Sanctuaries. Today I'm going to be talking to you about a term known as speciesism. Now this word may be completely new to you or you may have heard it in the past, but I wanted to take this opportunity today to kind of explain what it means and the implications for animals and humans around the world. So let's make a start. What does speciesism actually mean? Where does the word come from? Well, let's break it down. The first part of the word, species, is a scientific term used to classify organisms. So it's a group of similar living organisms able to breed and produce fertile offspring. And what does the word ism mean? Well, an ism is a distinctive practice or ideology and can have oppressive or discriminatory implications. If you think of any other examples of words ending in ism, you'll kind of get the idea of what I mean when I say oppressive or discriminatory. So other examples may include racism, sexism, or ableism. So it's having that distinctive ideology of being superior to one group as opposed to another. This term was actually first coined by an Australian philosopher called Peter Singer in his 1975 book, Animal Liberation. Now, Singer defines speciesism as a prejudice or attitude of bias in favour of the interests of members of one's own species and against those of members of other species. I appreciate that this sounds really philosophical, but it actually is very simple when you look at real world examples. So that's what we're going to go and do now. I also want to stress here that Singer also suggested that treating one animal as a commodity and another as a beloved pet may be an example of speciesism. So it's not just favouring humans above other animals. It's also putting one animal species against another, ranking them as more important. So I'm sure we've all heard the term, you're either a dog or a cat person. So over here you can see a lovely example of a lovely cat and a lovely dog. You know, I would describe myself as a dog person, but why is this? Why have I got this bias towards dogs over cats? You know, I don't dislike cats, but I recognise that I favour dogs. And why do some people do this? Or, you know, why are some people more of a cat person than a dog person? Why do some people not like these animals at all? These are really interesting questions when you actually stop and ponder them for a little while. So that's what we're going to do today. What I'm going to do now is show you a series of different pictures of animals. And all I want you to do is just stop, take a moment and reflect on your attitudes and feelings towards these different species. Now, I want to stress here that there is no right or wrong answer. You know, this isn't a test at all. I just want you to take a moment to think about how you feel towards these animals. So just to give you a few examples to start us off, we've got a tiger. So, you know, just take a second here. What is your opinion on tigers? Do you like them? Do you dislike them? Are you afraid of them? Do you respect them? And then when you get to that stage, start to think about why that is. Why have you formed that opinion? And I'm going to go through a couple more examples now. So we have a horse. Have you had any experiences with horses? Has this perhaps influenced your opinion of them? What about a rat? What about a dog? What about a pigeon? So here, obviously, these animals are all very, very different. In this set of examples, these are all mammals. But what about in this set of examples here? We've got an orangutan. We've got an earthworm. We've got a trout, an elephant, a dolphin, a wasp, and finally humans. Just take a minute now just to think of you know, the abundance of life on planet Earth, all of the different animal species, why have you formed a very specific opinion of these different animals? Think of all of the insects in the world. Think of all of the fish in the sea, all of the land mammals. And I'm almost certain that you will be able to rank these animals in terms of their importance. So that's what I want you to try and do now. If you had to arrange these species by importance, which species would be at the top and which species would be at the bottom? I'll give you a minute just to think about that. Okay. I'm almost certain your pyramid would look something like this. At the top, we have humans. As a species, we always tend to put ourselves first. What's next? Perhaps pets. You know, I've had dogs before and I love them to bits. So for me, in terms of importance, you know, they're very high up in the ranks. And I'm sure the same applies to many of you watching this. What would come next? Here, I've assumed it would be the charismatic vertebrates. And by that, I mean species like the tigers, the elephants, the lions, those animals that you really respect. And for some, perhaps unknown reason, you really like them. Hopefully you've had a chance to kind of think of those reasons why you like them. I had a discussion about this earlier, and lots of reasons popped up. It could be because they're endangered. It could be because they're particularly sophisticated. It could be because they're intelligent or really fast or really appealing to look at. Why are they more charismatic than other animals, such as invertebrates? You know, your insects, your spiders, your earthworms, I'm guessing they're quite low down on your pyramid of hierarchy. But why is that? Why have we ordered the animals in this very specific way? Well, this is what Peter Singer really delves into in his book. Whilst we're looking at this pyramid as well, I think a key question to ask yourself is, where do the animals that you eat fall into this pyramid? Are they high up in terms of importance and respect and likability, or are they further down the pyramid, down towards the invertebrates? Where do they fall? So speciesism is a really tough one, and it's intrinsically linked to the food that we eat. So here, I think this is a beautiful example, actually, and it's comparing a golden Labrador dog to a young calf. And I think this image is really powerful because it highlights the physical similarities between the two species, and also hopefully translates some of the species' sentience as well. And when I say sentience, I mean animal consciousness and ability to experience different emotion. So here in this lovely image, you can of course see the cow and the dog staring intently at the camera. And I think it's a really nice stark comparison, or rather not comparison, but ability to see the similarities between these two animals. So where has this all come from? Why do we think these things? You know, and it all comes down to social conditioning, which is a psychological term. So all that really means is, from a young age, we are told that certain animals serve a very distinct purpose. And these purposes, I've given a few examples, such as pets, pests, working animals, and animals for food. And I'm sure you can think of some examples that would fit those different categories. And I bet you can associate your different opinions of these animals based on their purpose. So, for example, like I was talking about earlier, a pet animal might be regarded very highly, whereas a pest animal might be lower down in that pyramid that we looked at before. Now, social conditioning means training an individual to respond in a manner generally accepted by society. Individuals will usually follow the example set by their caregivers and peers. They just want to fit in. That's all this is about, fitting in. So here are some of the social norms which are generally accepted in UK society. This is what we live by. This is what the society is ruled by. From a very young age, we're brought up to believe these things. It is acceptable to keep animals such as cats and dogs as pets. Like, that is very acceptable in the UK. It's also acceptable to eat animals such as pigs, chickens, and cows. However, it is unacceptable to keep animals such as tigers and wolves as pets. It is also unacceptable to eat animals such as horses and dogs. But what I want to stress here is that in other cultures and societies, the social norms may be very different to what we've come to accept within our own society in the UK. So in some parts of China, as I'm sure you're aware, it is acceptable to eat animals such as dogs. Obviously, this is something that here in the UK we find very unacceptable, and we find it very shocking and upsetting. But where it is embedded into societal norm and culture and tradition, it is classed as acceptable to do these things. In some parts of South America, it is acceptable to eat animals such as guinea pigs. And in some parts of Europe, it is acceptable to eat animals such as horses. Now, all of these, I'm sure, are quite shocking to us. As I said before, these are not acceptable acts for a UK society. But, here are the facts. Globally, 2.8 trillion animals are killed each year for food. 192 million animals are used for scientific testing, 500,000 of which are used to test cosmetic products only. So it's not for medicinal purposes, it's just for cosmetics. Singer, in his book, argues that humans have no greater right to serve only their own purpose than any other animal on this planet. With this in mind, why is it socially acceptable to exploit animals the way that we do all around the world based on those societal norms? Why is it acceptable to do those various things to these animals in different ways? Well, there are a couple of arguments for animal exploitation. One of which is human consciousness. Another is human intelligence. And another is human species identity. People who argue for animal exploitation argue that these qualities, consciousness, intelligence, and species identity, qualify us as humans to exploit animals because it gives us moral superiority. They think that these are unique qualities to humans alone. But what many other people believe is that there is no evidence to support the claim that animals lack consciousness. In fact, there's a lot of evidence to the contrary to support animal intelligence and consciousness. And also, based on genetic and behavioural similarities between humans and many other animals on Earth, it's a fair assumption to make that we are not unique in our consciousness or our intelligence. We're just too closely related to these animals to be unique in that sense. And there is an absolute wealth of evidence to support the fact that other animals are intelligent, are capable of feeling pain, are capable of feeling other emotions, and are aware of their own life and enjoy living their life if given the opportunity. So there are so many examples of animal sentience around the world. So I'll just go through a few of them, and hopefully you can think up some of your own as well. Think about a mother cow who's just given birth to a baby calf. Their bond is so strong and so powerful. I believe that is a clear case for animal sentience, because they have that strong love for each other, just as a human mother would have for her child and the child would have for its mother. You may be aware of stories of elephants mourning the lives of their lost ones. There's been many recorded cases of this, and again, this is just, it's so clear that this animal is experiencing emotion and grieving. So how can we say that we are unique in that element, in that emotion? We're not. We cannot be. And finally, you know, hearing the term happy as a pig in muck, like working at Good Heart Farm Animal Sanctuary, I can assure you our pigs are very capable of feeling happiness and contentedness. So yeah, we're surrounded by living examples of animal sentience every day on our sanctuary. And that's something that we try and translate to our visitors when they come and visit as well. So what do we believe? Well, with all of this in mind, we think that a reasonable question to ask is, if you wouldn't do it to a human, then why are we morally justified in doing it to an animal? We think it's actually time to rethink farmed animals. So many people have a perception of farmed animals that they are commodities, that they are stupid, that we have the right to use them for our own devices. But actually, this just isn't the case. You know, it's not. And I'd just like to take this opportunity to finish this short philosophical lecture with a really lovely film that I think demonstrates speciesism very clearly, very concisely, and hopefully will give you guys an opportunity to reflect today and think about your individual choices that you make and how you can reduce speciesism if given the chance.
Come here, girl. Come on, come and eat. Hi, girl. Good morning. Are you hungry? I love you so much. Yes, yes, yes. Here you go.
And that's it from me today. I really hope you enjoyed that short film, and I hope you enjoyed this mini lecture. I know it was shorter than some of the others, but I think there's lots to think about here. It's one of those where you need to kind of think internally rather than listening to me prattle on for too long. So I really hope you enjoyed this lunchtime learning session. And if you did want to get in touch to discuss any of the topics that I talked about today, you can always email me on kath@goodheart.org.uk. Thank you very much for listening.